Harvard matters. Harvard winning against the Trump administration matters. Harvard and its lawyers are smarter than Trump and his lawyers. You know, if you had one of those greater than, lesser than symbols from grade school, it would be Harvard greater than Trump. Why does it matter? Because Donald Trump's assault on public education won't stop at Harvard. And if Harvard gives in and relents and isn't successful in its lawsuit that it's filed up in Massachusetts, all is lost. So far, they're winning. And they've got a great winning streak in front of Judge Burroughs in Massachusetts, a federal judge. Ultimately, a lot of it will get to the First Circuit and then to the United States Supreme Court, where a lot of Harvard graduates sit. We break it down on a number of shows. One in particular, I find one of the most intriguing here on Legal AF. It's called It's Complicated with Asha and Renato. And you don't want to miss it. Here's a clip and their discussion about Harvard.
You know, what Trump is doing is basically putting a line in the sand that this is what you do when you fight. You know, we've talked in prior episodes, Asha, about how Harvard's fighting. They've hired these lawyers. They're going to battle against Trump. And this is basically Trump trying to show all these other universities and others, law firms and so forth, that might challenge him. I will not quit. I'm the sort of person that if you're either with me or against me, you know, and if Harvard's against him, he is going to keep piling on until Harvard, you know, cries uncle.
Yeah. And he's also directing the Secretary of State to consider revoking the student visas for students that are already at Harvard. And this is sort of where the fact-finding piece comes in, because the claim by the White House is that these measures are necessary for national security reasons. Again, the same basis that he's using for the travel ban. And he's accusing Harvard of having foreign ties and radicalism, and, you know, basically saying that this is a national security threat. But there's no fact finding. Like, it's not clear what he's basing that on. It's just sort of conclusory. But I think in the case of the visas, I mean, you know, it's an executive function that's there. But, you know, he's basically using the levers of power that he can use. I think there's already an injunction in place against the restriction against Harvard for using the student exchange visa program system. There's also an injunction in place against the cutting of the funding. I would imagine a judge is going to put in place an injunction against this as well. But again, that doesn't mean anything for the long term, as we've talked about before, for the students who are affected.
That's right. I mean, I think you can put this proclamation right next to the executive order we just talked about a minute ago on the immigration travel ban, whatever it is at this point. You know, we're beyond 2.0, like whatever, 4 or 5.0. And there's some interesting contrast, right? This proclamation doesn't contain any real factual anything. There's no factual findings here. There's bald assertions about crime rates increasing at Harvard. You know, they're not punishing certain crime at Harvard. I mean, you know, it's sort of like, well, you know, we want to go after crime in America, so we're going to target nerdy college students at Ivy League universities, right? I mean, no one seriously thinks that foreign exchange students at Harvard are like the you know, primary law enforcement threat to security in Cambridge, Massachusetts, right? I mean, it's absurd on its face.
It also seems weird to me that, I mean, it's not weird, because I think the point, you know, Trump likes the spectacle and he likes to make a show of his power, right? Like, his proclamations are, I can do this. I can now up the ante one more time doing this. But don't you think that kind of making it so transparent and putting it in writing only helps Harvard's legal case? That they're being targeted as retaliation, like, you know, for exercising their free speech. I mean, you can imagine, maybe not, well, you can imagine them doing all of these things quietly. Do you know what I'm saying? And
right.
It would almost be like harder, like, let's say just one by one, students admitted to Harvard were just like, their visas were denied. And then Harvard's like scrambling to figure out what's going on and whether this is happening at other schools. Like, in other words, there is a way in which, although it's obviously, targeted, the fact that it's targeted, I think, kind of helps Harvard make its case.
I agree with that. I mean, I think the contrast, like, I when I was talking a moment ago, that the contrast at the travel ban we were just talking about is striking, because the travel ban we talked about, as you mentioned, Asha, was crafted with the Supreme Court's ruling in mind. It went out of its way to comply with a prior Supreme Court precedent that, as you put it, I think gave them essentially, it's like a playbook of what they needed to do to get a past constitutional muster. Whereas here, it's like they know that this is so obviously unlawful. They know they're going to go to court. They know they're going to get shut down. And so it's just like slapping something that makes them feel good. It's like when you write it's like you write an email and you don't send it because it's just like it makes you feel good to get it out there, but it's not gonna be helpful to press send. That's sort of what this proclamation is. But he pressed send.
Yeah, and the other piece that is a good contrast with the Harvard proclamation and the travel ban also, I think, has all of these caveats to avoid any standing for litigation, like, if it's necessary for some, business or state interest, then these people from these countries can come, or, they're distinguishing. In other words, there was the fact that the travel ban initially in the first Trump administration was just this blanket ban, and it hurt so many state interests, which is what gave Hawaii standing to bring it. They've kind of done these little carve outs so as to avoid that situation. So I don't even know if the travel ban is going to be litigated this time. But yeah, now Harvard just has more fodder, even for its existing cases, that this is just, at this point, just harassment.
Yeah, I don't know where this ends with Trump and Harvard. We keep talking about it because he keeps doing more. I know he recently, of course, this week went after Columbia as well. So he's expanding his
Even though
reach.
They complied. It never pays to comply.
No, I hear you on that. Although so far Yale flying under the radar. Fingers crossed, right? But the point being is Trump's escalating this. I don't see a legal end game for Trump there, but it's maybe making him feel good.
Right.
Welcome back. It's complicated, but it's not when it's in the hands of two seasoned legal analysts, national security experts, former FBI agents, and former federal prosecutors, all rolled into two people, Asha and Renato. We're so pleased to have It's Complicated now exclusively on Legal AF and on the Midas Touch Network. Until their next show, I'm Michael Popak. Take a moment and vote for this type of content and these types of points of view. Hit the subscribe button for Legal AF. Till my next report, it's Michael Popak. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.